In this video, we'll show you how to replace the valve cover gasket set on your Subaru Baja. This is located in the front of the vehicle and on either side of the engine. Let's get started. We can loosen up the 10mm for the negative terminal. We'll set that down. That way it can't make contact. And pull the positive terminal off. Commonly, you'd have a 10mm nut holding down your J-hooks. For our case, we have some wing nuts. We can just go ahead and loosen those. It can help to pick up on the bracket while you loosen these. That way the J-hooks stay in their holes and hold them still. Once you have enough slack, you can pop the J-hooks from out of the chassis, and we can remove our bracket. And we can remove the battery. We have two 10mm bolts that we need to remove in order to remove the beginning of our air duct. And we can pull that off and set it off to the side. Normally, to remove this tube, you'd need to undo this 10mm bolt right here. The bracket in our case is broken, however, so we're just going to pull up on this. We can pop that off of the intake box and set that off to the side. We can go ahead and pull our plug wires out of the head and off the spark plugs. We can just rest those up on top of the engine. Next we have a vacuum hose. You can just pinch the clamp with your fingers and then pull up on the hose and set that off to the side. We need to remove this 10mm bolt through the timing cover to the valve cover. We have 5 10mm bolts holding the valve cover on, 2 up top, 1 in the middle, and 2 down below. We'll get these loosened up and then we'll remove them. You want to be aware that there are different lengths of bolts for this. The short one goes in the center. With the vehicle raised and supported, we can go ahead and remove this 10mm bolt. And we can do the same with the one on the other side. Then we have 2 more 10mm bolts on either side of the vehicle in the wheel well. I have the wheel removed to do this, but you can certainly get to this bolt by turning the wheel to either side. And at the back of the engine splash shield, we have 2 12mm bolts. We can do the same with the other 12mm. Then we can very carefully drop down the splash shield. You can go ahead and remove the 2 lower 10mm bolts as well. I have placed a receptacle underneath the vehicle to catch any oils that may drip out while we remove the valve cover. I'm going to use a small pry bar here to start prying out on it, being very careful not to damage anything. We can remove our spark plug tube seals. Those just pull right off. And then your valve cover gasket is either going to stay on the head like this, or it will come off with the valve cover. Now I'm going to use some brake parts cleaner and a rag. Wipe down our mating surfaces. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of fresh motor oil on the inside of the seal. And start to work the spark plug tube seal on. You want to be very careful to not damage this. Make sure that's nice and flat. And we can do the same with the other spark tube seal. With our valve cover over on a bench, we need to remove each of our little washer grommets that each of the bolts goes through. New ones of these come with our kit. We'll do the same to each one. Next, we can use some brake parts cleaner and a rag. Spray the cleaner onto the rag, and then I'm just going to clean out where our gasket goes into. I have some fresh motor oil in the cap right here. I'm just going to put some of that onto the gasket. That'll help it set in without getting any rips or tears. Spread the motor oil over the gasket. Make sure you look at your gasket very closely and make sure that you have the shape correct and the orientation. If you look at the valve cover, one side is flat and the other side has two bump out spots. Here's our bump out spots. So we're going to line that up. I like to start at one corner, start to get that in, and then work towards the others. Make sure that gasket's fully seated. We can get this back in the car. I'm going to put a little dab of motor oil on each of the spark tube seals. You can start to get the valve cover lined up. Grab one of your fresh grommets. You can push one of our valve cover bolts through the grommet. We'll get all of the bolts started in before we tighten any of them down. Make sure that the two longer bolts go up top. start to bring the center bolt down. And before we have that snugged up, you want to work down the other 4 bolts as well. Keep going around and bringing each bolt down slowly. We'll get the center one snugged up first. And then we can snug up all 4 corners. You'll feel it start to get tight, and then you can see the grommet will crush in, and that's the point that you should stop tightening. We can get our vacuum hose back on the valve cover. Get the clamp back in place. And get the spark plug wires back in. Make sure they bottom out on the spark plugs. You can also get the bolt back into the timing cover. And just snug that up, doesn't need to be too tight at all. And get the lower box for the intake back in, line it up, push the grommet into the side of the engine bay. We'll get the bolt in. And we can just snug that down. Replacing the valve cover gasket set is the same on the other side. As you raise the engine splash shield up, we have 2 tabs on the front side. When you get those into their holes, that'll help hold itself up. You just need to get the back screws in first. We'll just snug these down. They don't need to be too tight. We get the 2 bolts in on the front portion. Same as the back 2, these don't need to be too tight. We can get our screws in on either side in the wheel wells. And we'll snug those down as well. And we'll do the same on the other side. You want to make sure the battery is centered in its tray. We'll get the positive terminal on first. And we can snug down the 10 millimeter. And make sure the boot is set over the terminal. We'll get the negative terminal in place. And we'll get that snug down as well. We can get our battery tie down lined up and centered on the battery. If you pick up on the battery bracket, as you tighten down on the J-hooks, that'll help keep the J-hooks in place on the chassis.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.